Welcome back to today's video. In this video, we're going to be taking a look at incumbent President Joe Biden's approval ratings on some of these key issues that matter to undecided voters, especially undecided voters, but voters in general. Issues like the economy, foreign policy, immigration, even inflation and crime. His approval rating in some of these issues are not looking too good. And we're going to be seeing his approval rating on some of these issues and how they contribute to the 2024 election map. Could these poor ratings carry on to what the actual 2024 map would look like? So let's see in this video. So in terms of job approval, the economy, Joe Biden's underwater in the negatives he's negative 21.5% in terms of the economy. So Joe Biden is unfavored, disapproved of, unpopular in terms of the economy. So Americans, majority of them, he's underwater by minus 21%. So majority of Americans think that Joe Biden is handling the economy very poorly, according to his approval rating in terms of the economy. Underwater by 10, underwater by 17. You look at these numbers, it's on the screen. Underwater by 18, in the negatives by 26, down 20, 25, negative 31, negative 19, negative 25, negative 24. These are horrible numbers. And so will this carry on? I think it will. And if you take a look at RFK Jr., you add him to the race, he's a factor. So and there's a lot of Democrats that hesitatedly voted for Biden in 2020 that could ultimately, consider RFK Jr. Biden will still win the state of Colorado by a likely margin, but I still think that RFK Jr. could actually ultimately hurt Biden in states such as like New Mexico. Although I do think Colorado will vote more to the left than New Mexico will in 2024, I still think New Mexico will be competitive, and also Colorado still will be pretty much likely for Joe Biden at the moment. Now, obviously things can change. And I also do think states like solid Democrat states like New Jersey could even be likely, or somewhat closer than they was in 2020. Considering the factor of RFK Jr., like I just mentioned earlier, like I just said, you have these Democrats that hesitantly voted for Joe Biden in 2020. They could consider a third-party candidate like RFK Jr. And I actually know a few Democrats that actually know Democrat friends that voted for Biden in 2020 that are considering RFK Jr. So, RFK Jr., you have these Democrats saying RFK Jr. will take away votes from Trump, but you have these Republicans saying RFK Jr. will take votes away from Biden. Well, they're actually both right. RFK Jr. will, in fact, take votes, in my opinion, from both Trump and Biden equally. I also do think states like New York could be close, maybe within a likely margin. Biden can win New York by maybe 9, 10%. Maybe 11%. That's close for a safe Democratic state. You take a look at the 2022 midterms. Kathy Hochul barely won. She actually almost lost to Lee Zeldin. He only won by 5. She only won by 5%. So states like New Mexico, New York, actually, you can be seeing very close in 2024. Very competitive. Keep an eye on states like New York. Keeping on it, and it actually could be competitive, just like how it was in 2022. People who live in New York are not. They don't like what they're seeing with these Democratic, control, because New York is all Democratic, and obviously, and these, citizens of New York don't like how it's being, governed, and they might not vote blue. And obviously, New York will still go to Joe Biden in 2024, but maybe with a lesser margin. States like New Jersey and New York could be competitive, in my opinion. So just keep an eye on that. Just went over economy, and by the way, I'm using RealClearPolitics.com, the website. Take a look at Joe Biden's approval rating on foreign policy. He's still disapproved of, but a little bit less. Obviously, economy he was disapproved by, but 21. But in terms of foreign policy, he's still disapproved of by a little bit less, 19.6%. Take a look at this. Joe Biden's underwater in terms of foreign policy still. This is not good. Negative 15, negative 23, minus 14. Underwater by 29 points, nearly 30. Underwater by 17. Not a single poll suggests, keep in mind, not a single poll suggests that Joe Biden is favored in any of these issues. Not immigration, not inflation, not crime. He's not favored at all. So this is not looking good. Foreign policy, will this carry on? I think it can. Foreign policy is an issue to voters, obviously. Maybe not most, but still a good amount. So things like foreign policy will hurt Biden. I also do think Virginia will be more competitive than people think. I still think Joe Biden will win and carry the state of Virginia. Obviously, Glenn Youngkin in 2021, he surprisingly flipped the state from blue to red, and in a very good victory. So I don't think, obviously, Glenn Youngkin is different from Donald Trump, obviously. So obviously Glenn Youngkin would perform, Glenn Youngkin would outperform Trump in Virginia, obviously, because he's the governor. But, would Glenn Youngkin's victory carry on to a Trump victory? No. I still think Virginia will vote to the left, but I think it will be closer with a lesser margin. Obviously, Biden won by 11% in 2020. Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen. He'll probably win it by like 6% or 5% in 2024. It will be way closer than people expect. So keep an eye out on Virginia. And we're actually having Virginia elections on the day I'm recording this. So New Hampshire, I also do think Biden will still carry New Hampshire just how he did in 2020. I think the closest Donald Trump could ever get to winning New Hampshire was in 2016, and he still lost it by nearly 1 to 2% to Hillary Clinton. So I do still think Joe Biden will win New Hampshire, but obviously not with the margin he did in 2020. Joe Biden won it by 7 to 8 points. That's not. Oh, she still will win it, but with a lesser margin, maybe 4 to 5 points. So I just think New Hampshire voters, they don't favor Trump that well. Obviously, Trump is a pro-life candidate, and we're talking about New Hampshire. This is a pro-choice state. So typically, pro-life candidates don't do well in pro-choice states. So I think New Hampshire will still vote for Joe Biden, but it will be closer than usual. And then as for Minnesota, I also do think Minnesota will vote for Joe Biden. I think Joe Biden will win the state of Minnesota in 2024, just like how we did in 2020. Minnesota, I just think Donald Trump, the messaging, I don't think he's going to do that good in terms of messaging. He's not going to do that well in terms of messaging. I don't think Trump can appeal to the Minnesota voters. He did in 2016, which is the main reason why he almost won the state, but he didn't, obviously. So yeah, I think Minnesota will be lean for Joe Biden, not with a likely margin. I think it will be closer, lean. So, and now taking a look at Joe Biden's approval rating in terms of immigration. If you thought his foreign policy and his economy approval ratings were horrible, take a look at take a look at immigration. Joe Biden is the worst. Joe Biden's weakest issue is, in fact, immigration. Immigration. He's underwater by 31 points. If you're a Democrat, this is not what you want to be seeing. 32 points, negative 22, underwater by 36 points, down 30, like 37, nearly 40. Are you kidding me? So this is scary numbers for Democrats. This is good news for if you're Donald Trump, if you're a Trump supporter or a Republican overall in general. This is just good news for Republicans and horrible news for Joe Biden. And you take, and in fact, I think these numbers of immigration will carry on to the 2024 election, because you have states like Arizona, you have border states like in the south, down south, Arizona, states like Texas. Joe Biden is so unpopular, and immigration is one, if not the, one of the key issues in states like, Sunbelt states like Arizona and Texas, if not the most important issue to Sunbelt voters. So if Joe Biden cannot appeal to Sunbelt voters, then he's not going to win states like Arizona or Texas. Obviously, Joe Biden won Arizona in 2020, so he definitely can do it again. It's obviously on his resume. But when his, immigration approval is just so, trash, like it's just so bad, he's not going to win states like Arizona and Texas. And Democrats hoped they would be competitive in, Texas in 2016. They kind of were. Okay, they thought they can flip it in 2020. That, failed miserably. They thought they would flip it in 2022, the Senate seat. Or governor's race, that did not work. Better Work was horrible, so that's not gonna happen. Donald Trump is easily going to win Texas. Lean the likely margin, probably 6 to 7 points in my opinion. It's just Joe Biden is just, in terms of immigration, it's just not looking good. And same for Arizona, but I also do think Arizona will be way closer than Texas would be. I think Donald Trump would narrowly pull off the state of Arizona, barely. I think it will be extremely close, down to the wire. I think Arizona will be going to Donald Trump by maybe less than a percentage point, maybe 0.6%, 0.3. That's how dead close I think Arizona could end up being. And ultimately, Arizona could be won by Joe Biden in 2024. It definitely can. Don't get me wrong. But the reason why I have it going to Trump at this point is, if you take a look at my previous predictions, I had Joe Biden winning Arizona. But when it comes to immigration, if Joe Biden is this horrible at immigration. And trust me, immigration matters a lot to Arizona voters, and especially to the Sunbelt voters. Obviously, if you live up northeast, immigration is not going to be as important to you. But if you live in a border state like Arizona, you're probably not going to vote for Joe Biden, even if you're an undecided voter, because just look at these numbers. It's just bad. So that's where I'm at in these states. I think Texas could be lean, but I'm going to leave it as likely for now. I think lean to likely. 6 points, somewhere there. So if you think 6 points is likely, then, if you think 6 points is a lean margin, then that's whatever you have it out. But yeah, I'm going to leave Texas as likely for Trump and Arizona as tilt for Donald Trump. I think Arizona will be very close, just like how it, has been with this Trump era. He only won it by 3 in 2016, and he actually lost it to Joe Biden in 2020. So Arizona could definitely go either way. I see this going either way. I think it's a toss-up. But if I had to choose one, either or Trump or Biden to win Arizona, I'm going to say Donald Trump. Block their voter group. Independents make up a large amount of their voter block. So RFK Jr. can definitely come in handy when it comes to states like Arizona, that majority or at least half of their voters are actually independents. So RFK Jr., honestly, he could pull off the state of Arizona if he splits both of the Trump and Biden support. But as if right now, I'm going to leave it for Donald Trump slightly. Now, that was for immigration. So if you thought his numbers on immigration, foreign policy, economy were horrible, take a look at inflation. Underwater by 29 points. This is just detrimental to the Biden campaign. This is horrible. And I've heard even Democrats say that they don't think, I've heard Democrats say that they would vote for Biden in 2024, but they don't think he would win again. And if they are that, not confident in Joe Biden winning, even members of his own party are not confident in Joe Biden winning. That's horrible. So, issues like inflation, it matters to every single voter. Every single voter. And if you tell me right now you're a voter and inflation is not important to you, you're lying. Obviously, this is bad. Underwater by 29, 24. Underwater by 20. He's in the negatives by 27. Down 40, 37. This is horrible for Joe Biden. And this is just bad. Detrimental to his campaign. And with that being said, I think Donald Trump can win state. In terms of, inflation, Donald Trump could be, that could be the deciding factor in states like Georgia or even North Carolina. So I do think Georgia will lean for Donald Trump. I think Donald Trump can win the state by around 3 percentage points. And obviously Joe Biden did win Georgia in 2020, but I think he got lucky. Whether you believe in luck or not, I think he got lucky straight out. He got a lot of the African-American voter turnout to go in his favor. I don't think that's going to happen. Obviously, Joe Biden will still win those African-American, voters in 2024. Obviously, he's going to win them, but I think it will be way closer. Kamala Harris, I think, could have carried Joe Biden in Georgia. I don't think that's going to happen again, considering Kamala Harris's approval is just bad. It's just take a look at those numbers. It's just horrible for Kamala Harris. So I don't think she will carry Biden in terms of getting the African-American support, to possibly flip the state of Georgia. So Joe Biden only won it by like 0.2%. That's the closest margin of all close margins. Believe me, I don't see Joe Biden winning Georgia in 2024. Come on. Considering how bad he's doing in terms, it's not even my opinion. When I say he's doing bad, it's not my opinion. It's these numbers. So if you think me talking bad about Joe Biden is my opinion, it's not. It's the numbers are showing, and it's showing that Americans, whether you're on the left or right, don't approve of Joe Biden. So I think Trump wins Georgia, and if Trump can do well with the Brian Kemp, lovers, I would say, obviously Brian Kemp won by 7%. So Brian Kemp does indeed outperform Trump. So I think Donald Trump could, pull off some of the support from Brian Kemp, and then it'll help him, but Trump needs good relations with Brian Kemp in order to do well in the state of Georgia. So I still think Georgia goes to Donald Trump. And then as well as for North Carolina, I also do think this state goes to Donald Trump as well. I think Donald Trump can win North Carolina about maybe a little bit under 2%, maybe actually a little bit under 3%, maybe 2%. So I think North Carolina will be 2% for Trump, and Georgia will be 3% for Donald Trump. Let me know if you agree with those percentages. And then I also do think that you take a look at, we just went over inflation. You take a look at crime. Crime matters. And we're talking about Michigan, the Detroit area. Obviously, the Detroit area actually shifted towards the left after 2020. So maybe Joe Biden will still do good in Michigan just like how he did in 2020. But you take a look at crime. Joe Biden's underwater by negative 22, underwater by 18, net negative 18 again, negative 20, underwater by negative 31. So when it comes to crime, majority of Americans disapprove of Joe Biden, but doesn't matter. I still think Michigan will vote to the left of Joe Biden. I still think Michigan favors Joe Biden in 2024 by a lean margin. I think Joe Biden can win Michigan by around 2 percentage points. Why is because in terms of messaging, I just don't. Obviously, it's on Donald Trump's resume. He won Michigan in 2016, but lost it in 2020. So Donald Trump can definitely flip a state like Michigan in 2024. But I just, in terms of messaging, I don't think Donald Trump will be successful. I think his messaging in the Rust Belt in 2016 was good, but then he fell apart in 2020. He really collapsed. Donald Trump really collapsed in 2020. His messaging was spot on in 2016 in terms of getting those Rust Belt voters to his favor. But when it came to 2020, they favored Joe Biden. And in states like Michigan, I think they will still vote for Joe Biden in 2024. You take a look at Gretchen Whitmer. She won by double digits. She actually improved. So when it comes to Gretchen Whitmer, I think she can carry Joe Biden. Gretchen Whitmer can definitely carry Joe Biden a victory in Michigan, which is the main reason why I have Joe Biden winning Michigan. It's not his approval rating. Obviously, his approval rating is a disaster. But in terms of Gretchen Whitmer carrying Joe Biden, because obviously Gretchen Whitmer, she won by double digits, so she's very favored as a Democrat in Michigan. So maybe she can carry Joe Biden. So I do think Michigan still votes for Joe Biden. I think Joe Biden will win Michigan in 2024. What matters here in the United States matters more to voters, such as issues like economy, foreign policy, immigration, inflation. Crime matters way more than any. And then states like Nevada, I think, will be really close. But I do think Joe Biden will narrowly pull off the state of Nevada by a little bit under 1%. He obviously won in 2020 by 2%. I still think he'll win it by a lesser margin. Donald Trump could definitely win it. But, you take a look at northern Nevada. That's very Republican, heavily Republican. The only thing holding Republicans back, holding ultimately Donald Trump specifically back from actually winning the state of Nevada, is the Vegas area down south. Because you take a look at anywhere up north in Nevada, that's very Republican. But you take a look at down south in the Vegas area, that's going to be hard for Donald Trump. And if he can take away those voters from Biden, or maybe RFK Jr. can help Trump actually in Nevada, then Trump can win it. But as for now, I think it's toss-up. And if RFK Jr. can help take away votes from Biden, that will help Trump win the state of Nevada. But that's a different story. So, and we don't even know if RFK Jr. will be on the ballot. In my opinion, he will, but we don't know yet. And then states such as Wisconsin and Pennsylvania, those are going to, they might be the deciding factor of actually who wins the 2024 election. I think states like Wisconsin and Pennsylvania will determine the winner of the 2024 election. And I talked about that in a previous video. I do think Donald Trump will win Wisconsin by a tilt margin. It will be very close. This is a state that Joe Biden won by nearly 20,000 votes. And that may seem like a lot, but it's not. It's a margin under 1%. The margin is 0.6. That's very close. Joe Biden narrowly won the state of Wisconsin in 2020. I think it will flip to Donald Trump, considering how, we take a, I just showed it up. You take a look at these, issues. It's just not looking good for Joe Biden. Issues that matter to voters, deeply matters to voters. It's not favoring Joe Biden. So with that being said, I think Wisconsin will vote for Donald Trump in 2024. And now, as for Pennsylvania, I think Pennsylvania will be really close. I really do. In fact, I'm going to leave it as toss-up right now. I'm not going to give it to Donald Trump, and I'm not going to give it to Joe Biden. Neither will I give it to RFK Jr. I honestly, I think Pennsylvania could end up really close. Maybe a tie, but I'm going to leave it as toss-up for now. I mean, obviously, it's not going to tie, but it will be very close. Joe Biden only won it by 1.2%. So that's where I'm at in this video. As for the Rust Belt states, I think Biden can win with Michigan. I think Trump can win Wisconsin. I think either or, Biden or Trump can obviously win Pennsylvania. And I would not be shocked. I would not be shocked if Biden won Pennsylvania, nor would I not be shocked if Trump won Pennsylvania. But if I had to choose one, matter of fact, I think Pennsylvania will vote for Biden narrowly, but it does not matter because Donald Trump still wins the election at 272 electoral votes to Joe Biden's 266 electoral votes. So let me know your thoughts on this map. What states you agree with, what states you disagree with in the comment section down below. And don't forget to subscribe as we are about to hit 700 subscribers.